All right, welcome to the program Let's Talk. Now, the insecurity threat in Nigeria amid a low-level insurgency being waged by Islamist group Boko Haram in the country is still very much on top of the agenda when it comes to national concern. Now, amidst trying to find a solution, trying to deal with the threat, several people did have suggested the option of dialogue. Now, today on the program, we are going to be looking at the option of dialogue. Is it a meaningful solution to Nigeria's terrorism challenge? That's our topic, dialogue, a meaningful solution to Nigeria's terrorism challenge. And I am pleased to tell you that I am joined this morning by Sunday Odibashi. He is the political editor of National Daily. He is a media practitioner and he is a social expert as well as a public policy analyst. You're welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're looking at dialogue as a meaningful solution to Nigeria's terrorism challenge. Now, the president, Goodluck Jonathan, has proffered dialogue as a solution to the Boko Haram insurgency. Now, he's not alone. Several notable Nigerians have called in the past for dialogue with this sect. Now, before I'm going to ask you the question as to whether you think the option will work, I want us to look at dialogue and the process. What would the process of dialogue really involve? If we were to have that sort of this, situation, what would the process of dialogue involve?
Yeah, when you talk of dialogue, the foremost thing is that the issue at stake must be clearly defined. The issue causing the conflict must be well stated. Then from there, you now identify who are those involved. If we now know who are those involved, and this is what they are looking for, we can ask, okay, let's come to a round table. So that is the starting point. They will now fall back on the government. What is it that we have done well and we have not done well? Now let's go and meet these people. Let's see how can I reconcile these things, then we'll move forward. I think that's the basic, that's the fundamental thing for now. Yes, but in this case, the issues at stake have not been clearly defined. People are saying, okay, yeah, these are faceless people. Nobody can come out and stand and say, I'm Boko Haram. And it becomes a serious problem, to now say, okay, let's go on dialogue. But dialogue is still possible. Okay,
do you think the sect is totally faceless? I mean, we've seen some people who have come out and said they are the spokesman of the sect, and, do you think they're totally faceless?
No, they cannot be said to be totally faceless because they have an identity in the Islamic community. You understand? They have a name, they have identity. So it's possible for the government to trace them through that identity. That is one. Then we also have cases of people coming here, they are spokesmen, they are this. But we also have a situation where the Muslim leaders are dissociating themselves from this group. So you can now see some kinds of contradictions in the entire process. Yeah, faceless? No. Through security intelligence, you cannot say they are faceless. They can be known. But when you are dealing with it superficially, then you cannot assume they are faceless. Take for instance, the United States about 2 weeks ago identified three Nigerians as foreign terrorists. You understand? Shekau, Al-Bama, Al-Barwi, and Abubakar Kami. Now, having declared about 2 weeks ago as foreign terrorists, a week after, they now identify, as I think that was the yesterday report, they now identified 3 extremist Islamic terrorist groups in Africa. You understand? Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, and then Al-Qaeda. After that, they now went ahead to identify 2 fundamental issues about them. One, they share funds together. And 2, they have a way of exchanging explosives. I think these are steps to moving to, to handling this terrorist issue.
Okay, now let's get back to the option of dialogue as a solution to dealing with the security threat in the country. Do you think that this option of dialogue will work? You know, if you were to say as a personally, do you think it will work?
Yeah. The option of dialogue, it will work if it embraces all stakeholders in the country. You know, but when you reduce it to a small group, so what you are doing is that, okay, let me solve the problem of this group, then tomorrow another group will come up. Now look at the Niger Delta issue. You know, they went into dialogue, but also you also watch out, because if you have to recount the Niger Delta experience, the dialogue did not end with the militants in the creeks. When late President Yar'Adua said, okay, yes, let's grant amnesty, let's come to the round table, fine, it was working. The governors rose. I said, no, we are opposed to it. Then Asari said, no, we are opposed to it, because they were not involved. Now, Yar'Adua had to invite the governors of the South states to Abuja, and after meeting with them, they said, okay, we accepted. They now went into that dialogue. So even when you are still dealing with a small group, it's still beyond the boys that are throwing the bombs and carrying the guns. You have to involve the governors of those regions, then the regional leaders, including the traditional leaders. They can now talk, okay, let's even deal with this small group for now. But after that, you don't stop at that. You can open it up to the wider group, other stakeholders in the country. I think that is one way it can work.
All right, well, if you're just joining, we are still talking. We are looking at dialogue as a meaningful solution to Nigeria's terrorism challenge. Is it a meaningful solution? That's the question that we are trying to answer in this discussion. Now, I'm still talking about the option of dialogue. Now, do you think really, because it does appear that the group seems not to be interested. There have been several calls for dialogue. I do remember that at some point the process had actually started to have negotiations. At some point they broke off. You know, I think the group withdrew saying something. They said, I can't remember what they said, but they broke it off. Yeah. And that negotiation or that dialogue did not hold. Yeah. So in some way, with all the calls that have been going on, they seem really not to be interested in dialogue. What do you think about that angle?
Yeah, I think the point is this. You see, when this issue started, it had been a one-sided issue. So I think that is also one thing that has also made it difficult for government to intervene, because there's no collateral damage. Supposing as the young men are there destroying life and property of Christians, if there have been retaliation from somewhere, the music would have changed. Then there would have been collateral damage somewhere, so that somebody who is going out to destroy a church will also have at the back of his mind that maybe in the next hour, in the next minute, his community will also experience some destructions. Then they will not come to reason. But since it's a one-side destruction that has been going on, and somebody just having his way, he may not be interested in dialogue. But by the time you begin to experience that part of the population of your community is also encountering destruction, then you will be interested in dialogue. Don't forget, after the Kaduna bombing, you saw the uprising of the Christian community. You know, then the music has changed. Everybody is talking about religious war now. Now they know there's danger. And if they insist on that, there's certainly going to be somewhere coming from somewhere to say, okay, we're interested in dialogue.
Okay, but do you not think that, in fact, that is exactly what they want? They want a situation where Christians would retaliate so that there will be chaos in the country, and that, of course, would be a perfect background or a perfect backdrop for them to come in and do whatever it is they want to do. Now, remember, we have some instances in other African countries where, for instance, in Mali, when there was a military takeover, it was during the chaos of that takeover that the Tuareg rebels came and, in fact, they dominated the entire north of the country. So don't you think that that is exactly what they want? They want that retaliation. So there will be enough chaos for them to come and take over.
No, you see, it might not necessarily be for somebody to take over. Now, the history of Boko Haram, it started from Borno State. You know, and the danger of it is that, you see, the point is that when Nigerian politicians, they hardly prepare for elections. They rather prepare for war. They arm talks, you know, give them all kinds of support. Okay. Then after the elections, they abandon them. you know, that those people, when they are frustrated, they now take to a kind of a violence. It happened in Niger Delta, the same thing in this Boko Haram issue. But this now graduated from that stage and came to a point that there was conflict within the ruling elite of the country when some people were insisting on the zonal issue. And they were like, you know, one of the presidential candidates was like, look, if the things should shift away from the north, Nigeria may turn to Somalia and Sudan and the rest of other things. So there were utterances like that. And the events turned out to be so. Now, the problem that Nigeria is fundamentally going through, you see, globalization brought a kind of alteration of the power equation of world politics. You understand? You know, it brought all kinds of technology and all those things affected the hegemony of powers in various countries, including the United States. So you can imagine an African American being the president of the United States. Yeah. But no, those countries were able to adjust to the trend. But here in Africa, we didn't. And that is why we have crisis. But one point that is clear is this. Nigeria is at the point of change, and some people are resisting this change.
Okay.
And that is violence we're having. So the intention of Boko Haram initially wasn't to cause enough chaos to destabilize the country, no. The point is that they were rising against their own leaders, who they felt have betrayed them over the years. Because if you go to the north practically, and you come back to the south, you won't think that it's the same country. Look at the environment, look at the people. That is how they started initially. Before, as they were succeeding in what they were doing, nobody checked them. They were succeeding, and the thing now went to a higher level that they now have to attack the Nigerian state.
Okay.
So the issue of destabilizing that country, now it has taken international dimension. So it's also going to be a little difficult to destroy this country. Yeah. Because the United States, they've started their own work. The Nigerian government, so I think the intelligence of our security will, in the nearest future, be a little bit upgraded because the intelligence was down. And that is why they were unable to contain, because they were dealing with physical violence. They were not dealing with intelligence network. For instance, like the discovery of the United States Army General, Military General, yeah, about the fund being shared. One is to look for the source of that fund.
Funding.
Then you break it.
Okay.
Then how are they exchanging explosives? What are the rules? What are the networks? Once those areas are blocked, then I think you bring them under control.
Okay. Now, still talking about dialogue, I remember when I asked you in the beginning about the process of dialogue, yeah, and what that would entail. You know, you said that the issue at stake has, yeah, to be clearly defined. Yeah. Do we as yet know exactly what it is that they are clamoring for?
Yeah, I think that's the basic problem. Because they were, when they started, they've not really made clear demands.